Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are wading into waters that, let's be honest, absolutely terrify most people. We're talking about a topic that, usually happens behind closed doors, in hushed tones, surrounded by a tremendous amount of shame and confusion. We're talking about addiction, but we aren't doing the usual thing where we analyze the brain chemistry of a user or look at the opioid crisis from 10,000 feet up.
No, today's much more personal. It's,
Yeah.
it's much closer to the bone.
Today is about the blast radius. It's about the people standing right next to the explosion, the parents, the partners, the siblings, the best friends who are watching someone they love self-destruct and feeling absolutely, completely powerless to stop it. We are diving deep into the Beyond Addiction Workbook for family and friends.
It is a profound piece of work. It's written by Jeffrey Foote, Kenneth Carpenter, and Kerry Wilkins. And these aren't just, academics living in an ivory tower. These are clinicians who have spent decades in the trenches. And they wrote this book because they realized something critical. The standard advice families get is broken.
It is so broken, and honestly, it's not just broken. It's often actively harmful. I wanted to start right in the thick of the emotion here because the source material opens with a quote that it stopped me in my tracks. It's from a parent looking back on the agonizing years they spent trying to help their child. They said, "We were driving in the dark for a long time, and there is no worse feeling."
Driving in the dark, that metaphor is just,
Yeah.
wow, it haunts you, doesn't it?
It really does. And I think for anyone listening who has a loved one struggling with substance use, you know exactly what that darkness feels like. It's not just the literal darkness of, waiting up at 2 in the morning for a text message. It's the darkness of not knowing what to do. It's the fear that one wrong turn, one wrong word could send the car right off the cliff.
Precisely. You're navigating a crisis with no map. You have the fear of injury or death, that phone call from the police or the hospital that you're always dreading. You have the disappointment that the life you pictured for your child or your partner just isn't happening. You have anger at them, at the dealers, at the system, at yourself. And then, coating everything like a thick sludge, is the shame and the isolation.
That isolation is the killer. I mean, you feel like you can't tell your neighbors, you can't tell your coworkers, because if you say, "My husband is drinking a handle of vodka a day," or "My daughter is using heroin," you feel like you are exposing your family to this immense judgment. So you stay silent. You drive in the dark, alone.
And here's the tragedy. When you finally do roll down the window and ask for directions, when you look at pop culture or maybe ask a neighbor, what are you told? What is that cultural narrative?
Oh, I know the script by heart. You get hit with the slogans, right? You have to let them hit rock bottom.
Rock bottom.
Stop enabling them. Practice tough love. Kick them out if they won't stop.
Exactly. Tough love. That is the prevailing wisdom. And the subtext of all that advice is, it's incredibly cruel, actually. It basically says, if you help them, you are hurting them. If you are kind, you are weak.
Yeah.
If you provide a roof over their head, you are part of the problem. So families are told to suppress their most natural biological instinct to care and protect, and instead to harden their hearts.
It creates this impossible internal war. Your heart is screaming, "Save them," and society is screaming, "Lock the door." And this workbook steps into that gap and says something radical. It says, "Stop. The map you've been given is wrong. You do not have to wait for rock bottom. You do not have to detach. In fact, your connection to your loved one is the most powerful tool you have to help them change."
That is the headline of this entire deep dive. Connection is a tool, not a trap. The authors call their method the Invitation to Change approach, or ITC, and they define it as a blend of two things that usually don't sit at the same table in people's minds: science and kindness.
Science and kindness. It sounds a bit like a bumper sticker, doesn't it? It sounds almost too soft. But when you actually dig into the source material, you realize this isn't just be nice and hope for the best.
Far from it. This is a rigorous clinical framework. The invitation to change isn't just one person's opinion, it's a hybrid model. It takes three heavy-hitting, evidence-based psychological frameworks and braids them together into a single, cohesive strategy.
Okay, let's break this down because I think it gives this method a lot of credibility. It's not just a feel-good idea.
Absolutely. So first you have RFAFTIA. That stands for Community Reinforcement and Family Training. This is the science of how family interactions actually shape behavior. It's very behavioral, very practical.
Okay, so that's the science part.
A big part of it, yes.
No.
Second, you have MI, or motivational interviewing. This is the art of talking to people in a specific way that helps them find their own motivation to change, rather than you trying to force it on them. It's a collaboration.
Which feels like the kindness part.
Exactly. And third, you have ACT, which stands for Acceptance and Commitment Therapy.
Yeah.
This is the piece that helps you, the family member, deal with your own pain, your own anxiety, so you can actually stay in the game without burning out.
We are going to unpack every single one of those acronyms today because they are the tools in the toolbox. But I love the visual the authors use to hold this all together. They talk about the ITC wheel.
Yes, the wheel is crucial for understanding the structure of what we're going to discuss. Imagine a wheel with a hub in the center. The wheel itself is divided into three main sections, or spokes. Those are understanding, awareness, and action.
Understanding, awareness, action.
Right. And the hub, the thing that holds it all together and makes it turn, is practice.
Which is such a relief to hear, honestly, because calling it practice implies that we are going to screw this up.
Oh, you will absolutely screw it up. You will lose your temper. You will say the wrong thing. You will fall back into old habits. That isn't failure. That is practice. You don't learn a new language in a day, and you don't learn a new way of reloading to addiction in a day either. It takes repetition.
So our goal for this deep dive is to move through those three sections: understanding, awareness, and action. So by the end of this hour, you don't just feel understood, you have a roadmap. You aren't driving in the dark anymore.
Let's turn on the headlights.
All right, part one, a new understanding. This section is all about reframing the problem. And the first concept they hit us with is one that I think might make some people bristle initially. It's the idea that behaviors make sense.
It is a provocative statement, isn't it? Because when you are looking at someone destroying their life with drugs or alcohol, lying to you, maybe stealing money, losing their job, from the outside, it looks like madness. It looks like pure, utter chaos.
Right. You look at it and you think, are they crazy? Are they doing this specifically to hurt me? Why would anyone choose this?
And the authors say, no, they are not crazy, and they are not necessarily malicious. They are doing these things because, on some fundamental level, it works for them. This brings us to the mechanics of reinforcement.
Reinforcement. This is the science part, kicking in hard.
It is. Think about the hot stove analogy. It's a simple one. If you touch a hot stove, you pull your hand away immediately. Why?
Because it hurts. It burns instantly.
Exactly. Pain is a punishment. It decreases the likelihood of that behavior. You learn very quickly not to touch the stove. Now, if substance use only acted like a hot stove, if every time you took a drink or a pill, it immediately caused pain, money loss, a hangover at a fight, nobody would get addicted. Humans are wired to avoid pain. The reason they don't stop is that, unlike the stove, the substance provides a benefit. It provides reinforcement.
So even though we see the car crash, literally or metaphorically, they are experiencing something else entirely in that moment.
They are experiencing relief. They are experiencing a solution to a problem. And there are two main types of reinforcement at play here, and understanding the difference is key. There's positive reinforcement. That's adding something good. I drink, and I feel funny, social, and the life of the party.
That's the cookie aspect, the immediate reward.
Right. But then there's the much more powerful driver, and this is the one people miss: negative reinforcement. Now, people hear negative and they think punishment, but in psychology, negative reinforcement means subtraction. It means taking away something bad.
Oh, that's a huge distinction.
It's everything. It's,
Yeah.
I take this pill and my crippling social anxiety vanishes. I drink and the trauma voices in my head shut up for a few hours.
Yeah.
I use and the physical shaking of withdrawal stops. They are removing a painful state. That's an incredibly powerful motivator.
That changes the entire calculation. Because if I'm looking at my loved one and thinking, why are they doing this? I need to stop asking what is wrong with them and start asking, what are they getting out of this?
Bingo. The workbook suggests using a pause button. Instead of reacting with judgment, you're a mess again. You pause and you ask, what problem is this solving for them right now? Maybe they are incredibly lonely and the bar is the only place they feel connection. Maybe they're in chronic physical pain. When you shift from they are bad to they are hurting and this is their medicine, empathy becomes possible, even if you don't approve of the medicine.
It shifts the dynamic from a moral failing to a behavioral puzzle. But I can hear a listener saying, okay, sure, it makes sense to them, but they're still an addict, once an addict, always an addict. The book has a pretty strong stance on those labels, doesn't it?
It does. This is the second pillar of understanding. One size does not fit all. The authors are very, very critical of the labels we use: addict, junkie, alcoholic.
They act like those words are trapdoors that you fall into and you just can't get out of.
They are. Because they are totalizing. If I call you an addict, I am saying that is the sum total of who you are. Your identity is now this disease. It creates a black and white binary. You are either sick or well. You are either in recovery or in denial. The reality of human behavior is technicolor.
It erases all the other parts of them, the part that's a father or an artist or funny.
All of it. It collapses them into one word. And to counter that, they bring in the biopsychosocial model here, which is a mouthful.
It is, but let's break it down because it explains why one-size-fits-all fails so badly.
Okay, so it means substance use is a complex stew of three main ingredients. First, bio. Your biology, your genetics, your brain chemistry, how your body metabolizes the drug. Some people are just more predisposed. Second, psycho. Your psychology, your trauma history, your coping skills, your mental health issues like depression or anxiety that might be co-occurring. And third, social. Your environment. Who are your friends? Do you have a job? Do you have housing stability? What's your family life like?
And because everyone's stew is a completely different recipe, the solution has to be different too.
Exactly. So the idea that everyone has to go to a 30-day inpatient rehab
Is like saying everyone with a stomachache needs the same surgery. It makes no sense when you put it like that.
it is a dangerous myth. For some people, rehab is great. It saves their life. For others, it might be outpatient therapy. For others, it might be harm reduction, just using less or using more safely. For some, it might be medication-assisted treatment like Suboxone or methadone. If we cling to this one-size-fits-all mentality, we miss countless opportunities to help the individual in front of us. We try to force a square peg into a round hole, and then we blame the peg when it doesn't fit.
It's about customizing the help. Okay, so we know behaviors make sense, and we know everyone is different. But here is the thing that drives families absolutely bananas, the flip-flopping. One day they look you in the eye, tears streaming down their face, and say, I'm done, I promise, never again. And you feel that hope swell in your chest. And then 3 days later, they're using, it feels like a lie, it feels like manipulation.
It feels like a betrayal, a deep one. But the authors argue it's actually ambivalence. And this is the third key concept in understanding. Ambivalence is normal.
Explain that, because to the family, it just looks like they are lying to your face.
Okay, think about a diet or a career change. Or even better, think about a breakup. Have you ever known you needed to break up with someone because the relationship was toxic, but you still found yourself calling them late at night?
Oh, absolutely. The logical brain says, run, and the emotional brain says, but I miss the comfort. I miss the good times.
Were you lying about wanting to break up?
No, I knew it was the right thing to do. I really did want that, but I was torn.
That is ambivalence. It is the sensation of wanting two conflicting things at the exact same time. You want the health of sobriety, but you also want the comfort of the substance. The book calls it a motivational seesaw. One day, the health side is up, and they are full of conviction. The next day, after a stressful event, the comfort side is up. That isn't denial. That is the human experience of change. Change is rarely a straight line. It's a zigzag.
There is an exercise in the book from Kelly Wilson, who is a founder of ACT, that really drove this home for me. It's a short meditation.
Yes, this is profound. I'd ask you, the listener, to try this with us right now.
Yeah.
Just for a second. I want you to bring to mind something sweet in your life. Not necessarily sugar, but something that gives you comfort. A little ritual. Maybe it's your morning coffee ritual. Maybe it's that glass of wine at 5 p.m. Maybe it's scrolling through social media to zone out after a long day.
Okay, I've got mine. It's definitely my morning coffee. That silence before the world wakes up, it's sacred.
Good. Really feel how much you enjoy that. The warmth, the smell, the quiet. Now imagine I tell you that you have to give that up forever, starting right now, because it's bad for you. No more coffee. Ever. What's your immediate gut reaction?
I immediately feel annoyed. I feel a little panicked, actually. I'm thinking, well, maybe I can just have tea or decaf. I'm bargaining. I'm resentful that you're telling me what to do with my life.
Right. You are bargaining. You are feeling the loss of that sweet thing. You're pushing back. Now, multiply that feeling by 1,000. That is what your loved one feels. When we ask them to stop, we are asking them to give up their primary coping mechanism, their primary source of relief. If we can tap into that feeling you just had, that annoyance, that panic, that resentment, we can find radical empathy. It changes how we approach them. Instead of, why won't you stop? It becomes, I know how hard it is to even think about letting this go.
That is a massive shift. It takes us out of that adversarial you versus me role. But, and this is a big but, doing all this understanding, it takes a toll. It is exhausting to be empathetic when you are scared and angry. You can't pour from an empty cup.
It is deeply, deeply depleting, which is why the workbook pivots. We can't just focus on the loved one. We have to look at you, the helper.
Yeah.
This leads us to part 2, helping with awareness.
This is the put your own oxygen mask on first section, but the authors frame it in a way that feels less cliche. They talk about the inner work.
Right. And they acknowledge that most families are living in emergency mode. You are constantly scanning for threats. Is he high? Is she lying? Where is my wallet? Is that car driving too fast? Your nervous system is fried. You are running on pure adrenaline and cortisol 24/7.
So how do we break that cycle? Because if we don't, we burn out, we get sick, we collapse.
We start with self-awareness.
Yeah.
Specifically regarding values, the authors use a brilliant metaphor here called the two sides of the coin.
I love this metaphor. Break it down for us. It's so simple and powerful.
Okay. Imagine a coin in your hand. On one side, you have your values: love, connection, hope, the desire to be a good parent or a good partner. These are the things that make you stay in this difficult situation. On the flip side of that exact same coin, you have pain, fear, anxiety, disappointment, anger, grief.
And usually we try to scrub the pain off the coin. Where we just want the love. We don't want the fear. We think the pain is the problem.
Exactly. But the insight here, and this is from acceptance and commitment therapy, is that you cannot have one without the other. You hurt because you care. If you didn't love them, you would be scared for them. If you didn't value their life, you wouldn't be angry that they're risking it. The pain is the proof of the value. They are fused together.
Wow. So the goal isn't to stop hurting.
No, that's a fool's errand. If you try to stop hurting completely, you usually have to stop caring. You have to shut down, detach, go numb. That kills the relationship. The goal isn't to eliminate pain. It's to accept that the pain is part of the package. This leads to the concept of willingness.
Willingness. That sounds like willpower, but it's different, isn't it?
Very different. Willpower is gritting your teeth and white-knuckling it. Willingness is an active choice to open up. It isn't sucking it up or being a martyr. It's saying, I am willing to feel this fear in my stomach right now because I value keeping the line of communication open with my son. It's choosing the value with the pain rather than trying to avoid the pain and losing the value in the process.
That is heavy. It's heroic, actually. It's staying in the fire because the destination matters to you. But you can't do that if you are beating yourself up. And this is where the book tackles the inner critic. Families are so hard on themselves. I should have seen the signs. I was too lenient. I'm a bad mother.
Yes, the self-blame trap. It is paralyzing. This is where Dr. Kristen Neff's work on self-compassion comes in.
Now, hold on. Self-compassion often gets confused with self-pity or being soft, like, oh, poor me. But it's not that.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Self-pity is, why is this happening to me? It's isolating. Self-compassion is a tool for resilience. Neff identifies 3 ingredients that make you stronger, not weaker. First, mindfulness. This means acknowledging the pain without exaggerating it or suppressing it. Just saying, this is really hard right now. Not, my life is over, just, this hurts.
Okay. Acknowledging reality without the drama.
Second is self-kindness. Imagine a good friend came to you with your exact problem. What would you say to them? You'd probably say, you're doing your best. This is an impossible situation. Be kind to yourself. You would never say, you idiot, how could you let this happen?
No, never. Of course not.
But we say that to ourselves all day long. The inner critic is brutal. Self-kindness is about turning that supportive, helpful mentor voice inward.
And the third ingredient, this one really hit me.
Common humanity. This is the direct antidote to isolation. Shame loves secrecy. Shame tells you, I am the only one dealing with this. Everyone else has a perfect family. Common humanity is the recognition that suffering is part of the shared human experience. It says, millions of people are struggling with this exact thing right now. I am not alone.
That isolation is such a killer. I mean, families hide this stuff. They don't tell the neighbors. They don't tell their friends at work. And that just lets the shame fester in the dark.
Shame is the enemy of change for both the loved one and the family. Shame causes hiding. If you're ashamed, you can't ask for help. Self-compassion is the solvent that dissolves shame. It allows you to stand up and say, this is hard, I'm hurting, and I deserve support just like anyone else.
So we've reframed the understanding of the behavior. It makes sense to them. We've done the inner work to stabilize ourselves, finding willingness and self-compassion. Now, we have to actually talk to them. And this is where the rubber meets the road, part 3. Helping with action, specifically the communication tools.
This is often where people want to start, just give me the script, tell me what to say.
Yeah.
But you can see why we had to do the other work first. If you try to use these communication tools while you are seething with resentment or crippled by anxiety, they will not work. Your tone will give you away every single time.
Right. You can say the right words, but if your body language and your eyes are screaming, I judge you, They will hear the judgment, not the words.
Exactly. The authors use a traffic light metaphor here. Red lights versus green lights.
Okay. A red light interaction is pretty easy to spot, I think.
Yeah. Yelling, lecturing, the you always or you never statements, shaming. Or the other extreme, the silent treatment, shutting down completely. These are red lights because they stop the flow of communication. The other person puts up a wall and nothing gets through.
So the goal is to turn those red lights green, to foster collaboration and connection. And to do that, they introduce the acronym LOVE.
Yes, LOVE. It's a roadmap for a constructive conversation. The L stands for listen. But not just, I'm hearing noises coming from your mouth while I plan my rebuttal. This is skillful listening. And to do that, they use another acronym from motivational interviewing called ORS.
We are drowning in acronyms today, but this one is so helpful. ORRS. Let's paddle through it.
Okay, O is for open-ended questions instead of, did you drink today? Which is a trap.
It's an interrogation. It demands a yes or no and usually a lie. It's a dead end.
Right? An open-ended question invites a story. How are you handling the stress at work lately? Or, what's been on your mind today? It invites them to talk about their internal world. A is for affirmations. Find something, anything positive you can genuinely state. I really appreciate you coming home for dinner on time tonight. I admire how hard you're trying to find a job, even with all the setbacks.
Even if the rest of their life is a total mess, you find the one thing that isn't.
Exactly. You build on the good, you notice their effort. R is for reflections. This is like being a mirror. They say, I'm just so stressed, my boss is an idiot, I can't take it. You don't try to fix it. You just reflect. It sounds like you're feeling really overwhelmed and undervalued at work.
Oh, that is so hard to do. My first instinct is to say, well, maybe if you showed up on time, your boss wouldn't be so mean.
That's the fix-it reflex. We all have it. But reflection proves you heard them. It validates their experience. And when people feel heard, their defenses come down. And finally, S is for summaries. Just wrapping up what they said to show you got the big picture. So it sounds like work is awful, you're not sleeping well, and you're just feeling totally fed up. Did I get that right?
Okay, so that's the L listening with ORs. Back to love. What is O?
O is offer information. This is tricky. Usually we just dump info on them. Here's a pamphlet on AA. Here's an article about liver damage. We lecture. The authors suggest the sandwich technique.
The sandwich. I'm getting hungry. Tell me about the sandwich.
Okay, top button. Ask permission. Would it be okay if I shared something I read about anxiety and alcohol?
Wait, you asked permission. What if they say no? That seems weird.
Then you don't share it. This is crucial. If you share it when they've said no, they aren't listening anyway. You're just talking to a wall and building resentment. But if they say yes, they have engaged. They have given you consent. That is a huge psychological shift from being lectured at. The meat. Give the info. Brief, factual, neutral. I read that sometimes alcohol can create a rebound effect that actually makes anxiety worse the next day. Bottom bun. Check back. What do you think about that? Does that match your experience at all?
That is so much more respectful than just leaving brochures on their pillow, which always feels so passive-aggressive.
It creates a partnership. It treats them like a capable adult with a brain. The V in love is validate. This means acknowledging their feelings as real and understandable without necessarily agreeing with their actions. You can say, it makes sense that you want to blow off steam after that shift from hell without saying, it's great that you got drunk.
That is a crucial distinction. Validation is not endorsement. You are validating the emotion, not the behavior.
Correct. And finally, E is empathize, trying to see the world through their eyes. Combining these, listening, offering, validating, empathizing, turns the red lights green. It lowers the temperature in the room dramatically.
Okay, but we still need to ask for things. We can't just be empathetic listeners forever. We need to set boundaries or ask for changes in behavior. How do we do that without starting a huge fight?
That brings us to the SURF acronym. This is specifically for making requests.
Let's ride the wave. SURF.
S is for specific. Don't say, I want you to be more responsible. That means nothing. It's subjective and easy to argue with. Say, I would like you to text me if you are going to be more than 30 minutes late. It's specific. It's measurable.
Got it.
Understanding. Start with an understanding statement that validates their position first. I know you need your independence, and you hate me checking up on you.
Enter.
Responsibility. Take partial responsibility for the dynamic. This is a game changer.
Yeah.
I know I've been nagging you about this a lot lately, and that probably just makes you want to ignore my calls.
That's so disarming. You're admitting you're part of the dance, not just an innocent victim.
Totally disarming. It takes the fight right out of it.
No.
And finally, F is for feelings. Label your own emotion using an I statement. I feel scared when I don't know where you are. Not you are scary or you are disrespectful. I feel scared.
So putting it all together, I know you need your independence. and
Right.
I know I've been hovering and nagging, which isn't helpful. But when you don't call and it gets late, I feel scared. F. Can you specifically text me if you're running late? S.
It is incredibly hard to fight with that statement. It's clean, it's honest, it doesn't attack, it invites them to help you with your fear rather than forcing them to defend themselves against your anger.
It's fantastic. It's a script for sanity.
Okay, so we are communicating better, but eventually we want to influence their behavior in a bigger way. We want them to get help. We want them to stop using or use less.
Yeah,
This brings us to part 4, inviting help and shaping behavior.
right. And notice that word again, invite. You can't force help. It doesn't work. So the intervention style, the surprise attack with the letters and the ultimatum, that's not what we are doing here, the stuff you see on TV.
The research shows that those highly confrontational interventions, the Johnson intervention style, can actually increase resistance. It backs them into a corner, and people tend to fight back when they're cornered. We want an invitation, and first, we need to broaden what help even looks like.
The menu of options. I like this.
Exactly. Families often think treatment only means one thing, 30-day inpatient rehab. That is a huge step. It's scary, it's expensive, it's disruptive. The menu of options is much broader. It can range from reading a book like Beyond Addiction, listening to a podcast like this one, going to a peer support group like Smart Recovery or AA, seeing a therapist for the underlying depression, or going to an outpatient clinic once a week.
So you offer a menu, not a mandate. Here are 5 things. Would you be willing to try just one?
And you use motivational hooks. This goes right back to understanding what they want. Do they want to sleep better? Do they want to keep their job? Do they want to save money? Do they want to stop fighting with you? Connect the treatment to their goals, not yours. Instead of, you need to stop drinking, try, I know you've been saying you're exhausted and can't sleep. I found a doctor who specializes in sleep issues. Would you be open to just chatting with them?
That is so much more appealing. You are helping them solve their problem, not just nagging them about yours.
Right. And timing is everything. Use your red light, green light awareness.
Right.
Don't ask when they are intoxicated. Don't ask when you're in the middle of a fight. Ask when things are calm, when you are connected.
Now, let's talk about the day-to-day. The authors use a metaphor that I think is the absolute heart of this entire approach. The gardener.
Yes, Ray the gardener.
Tell us about Ray.
So Ray has a garden. And lately, there are a lot of weeds. These are the negative behaviors, the using, the lying, the staying out late. Ray becomes obsessed with the weeds. He spends all day staring at, pulling at them, yelling at them, spraying them, worrying about them. And in his obsession with the weeds, he stops watering the flowers.
And what happens to the garden?
The flowers die from neglect, and the weeds, which are hardy and aggressive, take over anyway. The lesson is, you cannot just focus on the negative. You have to actively water the flowers. This is the principle of positive reinforcement.
This is so hard for people because when someone is messing up 90% of the time, it feels wrong to praise the 10%. It feels fake, or it feels like we are rewarding bad behavior.
It feels completely counterintuitive. But the science of behavior tells us, unequivocally, that behaviors that are rewarded are repeated. If you want them to be sober, you have to make sobriety more rewarding than using. You have to make it feel good.
So if they come home sober, even if they are grumpy and sullen,
You water that flower. I'm really glad you're home tonight. It's nice to see you. I made your favorite dinner. You make that moment pleasant. Here's the key insight. If you yell at them when they come home sober because of what they did yesterday, you are punishing sobriety.
whoa, say that again? That is a massive insight.
If you yell at them when they are sober, you are punishing the very behavior you want to see more of. You are teaching them that being sober isn't safe either, so why not go get high? At least that feels good for a while. We have to make the non-using time the best time.
So we water the flowers, we catch them doing good, even tiny things. Washing a dish, getting up before noon, answering a text message.
Yes. Build the momentum of the good. Notice it aloud. Reward it with your attention and kindness.
But what about the weeds? Do we just ignore the bad behavior? Is that where the whole enabling fear comes in?
This is the crucial distinction, and people get this confused all the time. Watering the flowers is reinforcement. Watering the weeds is enabling. Enabling is protecting them from the natural consequences of their actions. It's stepping in to fix the mess the substance use creates.
Okay, give me a clear example of a natural consequence.
Let's say they get drunk, oversleep, and miss an important day of work. Enabling is you calling their boss and saying, oh, he has the flu, he's so sick. You just watered the weed. You protected the addiction from pain. A natural consequence is doing nothing. You let them wake up, realize they are late, and have to face their boss. You let them feel the panic. You let them maybe lose the job.
And that is so, so hard to do because our instinct is to protect them. We want to save them from the pain.
But reality is the best teacher. If you constantly stand between them and reality, they never learn the lesson. Now there's a caveat, a very important one. We only allow safe, natural consequences. We don't let them drive drunk. We don't let them overdose. We intervene on life-threatening safety issues. But if the consequence is embarrassment, loss of money, a grumpy boss, or a burnt dinner, let it hit them.
So we step back to let reality do the teaching. But sometimes we need to protect ourselves from the chaos. And that's where setting limits comes in.
Right. And limits are different from punishment. Punishment is, I'm going to hurt you because you broke the rules. It's retributive. It's about them. Limits are for you. They are self-protection.
Can you give an example of a limit? The wording seems really important here.
Sure. The formula is, if you do X, I will do Y to take care of myself. For example, I love you, but when you are yelling at me, I feel unsafe. So if you are yelling, I will step away and go to my room, go for a walk, go to my sister's house. The consequence is the removal of you. You are the reward. Your presence, your attention is the benefit. You are taking yourself away to be safe.
It's not you are grounded, it's I am stepping away. It's about your action, not their punishment.
Exactly. It preserves your dignity and your safety, and it teaches them that access to you requires a baseline of respect. It sets a standard for the relationship.
We have covered so much ground, from understanding the why behind the behavior, to managing our own emotions with self-compassion, to communicating with love and esser-firth, to watering the flowers and letting natural consequences happen. As we wrap up, I want to zoom out. The authors talk about the philosophy of change, and there is this phrase, change is addition, not subtraction.
I love this concept. We tend to think of recovery as stopping. Stopping drinking, stopping drugs, stopping the madness. But you can't just create a vacuum. A vacuum pulls things back in. You have to add. Add new healthy behaviors, add new coping skills, add new hobbies, add new connections, add self-compassion. The invitation to change is an invitation to build a bigger, richer, more meaningful life where the substance it doesn't fit anymore. It gets crowded out by the good stuff.
And the hub of that wheel, the thing that powers it all, was practice.
Yes, you will mess this up, you will yell, you will forget to SRF, you will water a weed by accident. That is okay. We're practicing, just like your loved one is practicing. It's a process for the whole family. Be gentle with yourself. Be patient.
And that leads to our final thought. We always like to leave you with something to chew on, something to take into your week. We talked about the gardener. We talked about how easy it is to get obsessed with staring at the weeds.
Yes. So my challenge to you, the listener, is this. Look at your loved one today. Amidst all the chaos, all the weeds, all the fear, can you find one specific flower? One positive behavior, one moment of kindness, 1 hour of sobriety, one small effort. And what can you do right now, today, to water that single flower?
Because that is where the change begins. Not in the fighting, but in the watering. Thank you for diving deep with us. This is a tough road, but please remember, you don't have to drive in the dark. As a final note, the information in this deep dive is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional psychological or medical advice.
Take care of yourselves.
See you next time.